All right, so we're live on YouTube, and just wait for it to get refreshed so I can mute myself so I don't hear myself twice. Here we go. All right, so we're ready. We'll go ahead and get started. Right on time. Hi, Michelle. How are you?
Good morning, Dan. I'm doing great. Welcome back from your worldly travels.
Yeah, it's great to be back in the United States. I mean, it only takes a couple weeks for me to realize, there's no place like home. All of the things that you take for granted when you're traveling, anywhere, but when you go outside of the country, I was missing, some of those creature comforts of home, like air conditioning for one.
Yeah. Yes. Well, it's very good to have you back, and glad that you made it home safely. And unfortunately, I know you did get sick, you and Teresa. So I'm glad you guys are recovering from that as well. So glad to have you back, safe and sound, back in our country.
Very good. Well, welcome to another QB Power Hour, where today we're going to be talking about what's new in QuickBooks Desktop 2023. So it's there's always that conversation that we have about desktop going away, and QuickBooks 2023's launching this month. So if you're an accountant, it should be already available in your accountant portal, and going into camps, .intuit.com, you'll be able to download that. But for release to the general public, will be the end of this month. So we'll talk about the new and upcoming features in this year's version of QuickBooks Desktop. Michelle, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. Michelle Long, owner of Long for Success, trainer for Intuit. And actually, I was thinking about this, Dan. When I first joined the Trainer Writer Network, the first tour that I did was What's New in 2008.
Wow.
So I joined the fall of 2007. The first tour that I did was What's New in 2008. So I started doing the training 15 years ago. So anyway, that's enough about me. Go ahead, Dan.
All right. Yeah, my name is Dan DeLong, owner of Dan Witt. Worked at Intuit for nearly 18 years. So I started in QuickBooks 2000. Your co-host today, also doing the co-hosting duties over at Workshop Wednesdays at schoolofbookkeeping.com, and just put a wrap on the technical editing for the QBO for Dummies 8th edition. So it's already outdated because what's new, the In the Know webinar is tomorrow, which already has stuff in it that isn't in the book. So, that's the problem with doing books, physical books, with an online product that has monthly updates. But little details about the QB Power Hour webinar series. It's every other Tuesday at noon Eastern. Not eligible for CPA credit. But some of the upcoming, we'll be talking about working with spreadsheets in QBO, because if anybody likes spreadsheets, it's accountants and bookkeepers. So we'll be talking about some of the things that you can do in QBO with spreadsheets. We'll also have Jonathan Bello and Trevor Lee, who's coming in from Genius Sheets. So we'll talk a little bit about Spreadsheet Sync. We'll talk a little bit about just what you can do in QuickBooks Online natively, and then we'll talk a little bit about Genius Sheets as well. So always check the website for upcoming events, not just with the QB Power Hour, but we also have some Intuit sponsored events. Hector's webinar series is there. Alicia Katz-Pollock has some of her topics there. So you can always go to the website and use that as a launching point, because we love to give back to the accountant community and make sure that people are aware of some of the things that are happening in the QuickBooks world. We have our PDFs of slides, recordings, podcasts, and other resources at qbpowerhour.com/resources. And I know somebody already asked, where are those handouts? So go ahead and Michelle, if you want to talk about some of the housekeeping, I'll put those in the chat.
Okay, perfect. And I just did put the
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yes, I just put the link in there. But yeah, if you have questions about the content today, please put those in the Q&A, because that's easier for Dan and I to respond to your specific questions in the Q&A as opposed to in the chat. If you're chatting amongst yourself about, hey, I really like this, or chatting, sharing things with each other, go ahead and put those in the chat. But specific questions, it's easier for us to reply in the Q&A. But for the handouts, as Dan just mentioned, I did put the link in there, and he did as well. I put the link in for the resources, the qbpowerhour.com/resources. That's where the handouts always are, as well as the webinar archives. And Dan put the link in there for the specific one today for the desktop handouts. But in the resources, you can always find the slides in there and the links for the webinars and all that in there. That's a webinar, or that's a resources link for all the webinars that we do out there as well.
Yeah, I wanted to put in this one particular because on the landing page that I created for the webinar today, I also put the demos that we're going to be showing during the webinar. So you can always go back. You don't have to watch this again. You can go right to the specific demo. If you had a specific question about one of the topics, you can just go right to that page and watch the video there. So that way you don't have to skip through. It's like, where were they talking about that? But it's also embedded in the slides as well. So tried to make everything available for you today. So quick poll: what version of QuickBooks do you use the most? So let me find it here so I can launch it here. QuickBooks Online, QuickBooks Desktop, something else, or maybe you don't have clients. So it's always a little bit of both, right? Where you sometimes do QuickBooks Online or QuickBooks Desktop. What were you going to say, Michelle?
I was just going to say, Dan, as I was getting ready for this webinar, I realized, I am a longtime desktop user in the sense that, I started using desktop back in the DOS days, and then it quickly went to, because I remember QuickBooks, 90s, and then QuickBooks 99, and then it came out with the Windows version and all that. And I started teaching QuickBooks in the mid 90s and stuff. And, I haven't used desktop in years. I even quit paying for the ProAdvisor program for desktop. I have not had a desktop version for years, unless I needed to convert somebody from desktop to online. And then I would get that trial version where I would do a conversion or something. But if I'm supporting desktop clients, like I've got somebody right now who needs some help, I'm logging in remotely to their desktop version. I'm not using desktop anymore at all. And that was a gradual process, but I just quit taking desktop clients and started working strictly with QuickBooks Online. But when I work with desktop now, it just seems so clunky and dated. And, they're doing these enhancements with, say, for example, bank feeds and things like that, trying to get it more like QuickBooks Online and stuff. But I, as a longtime desktop user, I just don't use it anymore. And, at first, when I first started using QBO, I was like, oh, I hate it. Where's my icon bar? Where's my icon bar? Where's my keyboard shortcuts and all that? But I don't miss desktop either. So it was a transition, but I gave up Lotus 1, 2, 3 too. So anyway,
it's definitely a cats and dogs, right? I always compare it to QuickBooks Online as a cat, QuickBooks Desktop as a dog, right? If you're a dog lover, you love your dog. You can teach your dog new tricks. You know how to do certain things, and you prefer the dog over the cat. Just like a cat will sit there at your feet and meow at you and just like a cat, tempt you to pick it up, and then it may scratch you, and then you go running back to your dog, right? So there's a lot of desktop faithful out there, and there's always been that question of, is desktop going away,
right?
And as far as Intuit is concerned, no, it's not going away. There will be a desktop version for a long time. But as we'll be talking about, some of their actions are definitely encouraging, I think it's the best way to describe it, that take a look at QuickBooks Online. That's definitely where they're driving people to their actions to go.
Well, there's still millions of desktop users, but it is interesting that more and more things with desktop are residing in the cloud, and it is subscription based, and but there's still millions of desktop users, so.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think we'll see as years go on, how things kind of evolve. You just look in the last year, all of the things that have kind of deteriorated, I guess, from QuickBooks Online, or I'm sorry, QuickBooks Desktop. Some of the desktop services, the pricing. I mean, we'll talk a little bit about the pricing changes and those types of things. How things are evolving with the online versus desktop world. There's clearly a feature gap between the two, but you'll definitely we'll see as time goes on. We're not privy. Michelle and I are not employed by Intuit anymore, and we're not privy to any kind of direction. But we're just interpreting the things that are being that are happening just like anybody else. So we'll talk a little today about the pricing updates. If you haven't gotten your emails inundated to you by Intuit, as far as the changes in the pricing updates, and we'll talk about the features. And the way we've kind of organized it today is we'll talk about everything, every version of desktop, or the features or enhancements that are in all versions of desktop, and then we'll talk about just the enterprise only features, and then the platinum features, and then the different services, so payments and payroll. Looks like I have pricing changes on the slide twice, so we're really going to talk about pricing updates there. All right, so if you haven't seen the Firm of the Future article or the emails that came out, desktop pricing 2022-23 has gone through a significant increase. So Pro Plus, which is if you have the plus moniker on the end of QuickBooks Online or Desktop, not to confuse yourself with QuickBooks Online Plus, but Pro Plus and Premier Plus are the subscription model versions of QuickBooks Desktop. So the 2023 price is a significant increase over what it was in 2022. And to further talk about those encouragements of desktop versus online, there is no desktop discounts for 2023, even through a QuickBooks reseller, which typically will have, or a solution provider, which will typically have some kind of desktop discount. There are no discounts anywhere, not even through QuickBooks.com, right? So if you can even find desktop on the QuickBooks website. So significant increase. If you have a client that started with the online or desktop subscription, the Plus subscription last year, these new prices will likely, on their anniversary date of whatever date they took, they started their subscription, that will show up the next time that it goes to renew. As far as these are the single user licenses of those subscriptions, and then for Pro and for additional licenses or additional user seats, it's $200 an increase per person, up to 3. So Pro, you can only have up to 3 concurrent users. Premier, you can have a maximum of 5. So there's a $300 per user increase for that. If you wanted to have 5 Premier users, you're looking at about $1,900 per year. So one of the things that this little QR code here is a workshop that Carrie Kahn and I did about the update on that. So want to get our take on the pricing increases, you can take a look at that. But one of the things that we realized by looking at that is with the addition of the enhanced payroll per employee fee, which is now being standardized at $5 per month, $5 per employee per month. You take a look at some of those desktop clients that you might have if they are using the enhanced payroll, the QuickBooks Enterprise version of Gold that includes payroll, which still does not include, which bundles in your payroll costs. Doesn't have an employee fee for that. So even the the direct deposit costs are included. So that sometimes that will, so like if you have for example, a premier client with 5 users and payroll, sometimes enterprise now might actually come into the mix there. They have all the features of enterprise plus the payroll service included. So that's that on that. We don't want to go into a session. I'm trying to not use the word bitch, but it's just coming out, where we want to talk about these fees. But we will throw out a poll here. So what are your initial thoughts about the pricing updates for desktop? So let me find the poll. I'll go ahead and launch that. I saw out of the corner of my eye, Michelle, chat was going crazy on that. So did you see anything that we want to talk about while we're launching the poll?
Some people are talking about QuickBooks Desktop crashing in the last couple of years, that there's some crashing going on. Linda says that the pricing is still good and money well spent for what you get. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a client, or if you're doing full charge bookkeeping, local on your side of in your system, or if you have a client with multiple entities, it becomes pretty cost prohibitive to go to QuickBooks Online, because you have to have a subscription for each company. So it really does kind of go into what is the value when it comes to pricing.
Yeah, the reality is all accounting systems these days, whether it's desktop or online, whether it's QuickBooks or others, they all are expensive these days, it seems like. Unless you're using Excel, which is ridiculous, you know what I mean? So they all are pretty expensive these days.
Yeah, and it's it's just an evolution of of the industry, where everything's subscription based these days. So it's not just it's not unique to Intuit for sure. So let me go ahead and launch or share the results of the poll. So it does look like a significant segment are looking for alternatives. And some people are even looking to retire. Let's use this as a trigger event to to sell my practice. But definitely there is a significant amount of folks that are, especially in the accounting and bookkeeping space, is just another salt in the wound of of dealing with the partnership of Intuit. All right, so we have here a grid of what features are available in what version. So as you look through some of these enhancements that we'll be talking about, the cash flow hub or intercompany transactions, you can see what version, just in one place, what version they're associated with. So you can always download the slides and have this printed out, so you know which version they'll be available in. All right, so they've kind of broken down the desktop 23 in these themes of having clear line of sight, enhanced control and decision making, and improved efficiency. So all of these features just kind of fall in one of these 3 buckets. All right, so the first thing I'm going to talk about is the cash flow hub. So it's going to be available in all versions of QuickBooks. So your plus, so when you see that plus ES and accountant, so it's available in all versions of Pro, Pro Plus, Premier Plus, account or Enterprise Edition, and then your accountant version. So the cash flow hub is going to be, if you're using QuickBooks Online, you'll notice that there is a cash flow center now. One thing that I did like about it is it's not just a copy and paste from what's in QuickBooks Online. They actually, used a little bit different, color scheme and those types of things. But you'll be able to quickly review your account balances, add a bank account or credit card that'll flow into the cash flow center. Explore, how the cash balances will trend over time. And then manage your overdue payments or dive into the reports from there. So we have a little demo, which is available, on our website as well. So hopefully the sound will play. So we'll double check here. Of course,
this is Jason from the QuickBooks team.
Can you hear?
The Cash Flow Hub in QuickBooks Desktop
Okay.
helps you track how much money you're receiving and spending, and shows your current and historical bank and credit card balances so you can see trends. Let's go over how to find the Cash Flow Hub and use it to manage your money. Select the Reports menu, then Cash Flow Hub. You'll only see the Cash Flow Hub if you're logged in as an admin or an accountant with full access rights. First, you see all of the bank and credit card accounts for your business. Next to each account, you see the account's balance. If you use bank feeds to download transactions for an account, this number comes from the bank, so you always have an accurate balance. If you don't use bank feeds, the Cash Flow Hub uses the transactions you've recorded in QuickBooks to build the balance. You can add or remove accounts that you wish to display in this section without affecting your chart of accounts and balances. Select Manage Accounts. Choose to manage a linked or unlinked account, and select Next. Accounts with checked checkboxes appear in the Cash Flow Hub. Select Save when done. QuickBooks uses the transactions you record to build the cash flow trend. This graph displays your cash balance history. Select the drop-down arrow, and you can change the date range for the graph. You can place your cursor in the graph to see your cash balance, total money in, and money out for a given period. You can also select View Reports to access your financial statements. In the Money In section, QuickBooks summarizes transactions related to income, like invoices, credit memos, and sales receipts. You see the total for the month, and how much is outstanding from open invoices and credit memos, as well as what customers have paid. You can get more details on the transactions in the Upcoming and Paid tabs. From here, you can see how many transactions occurred, run a report that shows the transactions, or send out reminders to customers for unpaid invoices. You can also look at transactions across different time ranges, such as this week, this quarter, or this year. In the Money Out section, QuickBooks summarizes transactions related to expenses, like bills, checks, and credit card charges. You see the total for the month, and how much you owe in unpaid bills versus how much you've actually paid. You can get more details on the transactions in the Upcoming and Paid tabs. From here, you can see how many transactions occurred, run a report that shows the transactions, or pay your outstanding bills. You can also look at transactions across different time ranges, such as this week, this quarter, or this year. Now you're ready to use the Cash Flow Hub to monitor the money you receive and spend. Hi, this is Jason.
Nope, there we go. Okay. So that is kind of like an overview of the Cash Flow Hub. I do like, it's got a nice, it's a nice place to start, right? It doesn't necessarily, give you everything that you can need. It's very much like a dashboardy, type of situation, but it does give you into, you can leapfrog into some of the tasks that you might be needing to do from that. All right, so tracking vehicle mileage. The only update here is that you can now use the app to be able to track your mileage, and it will synchronize into QuickBooks when you're using the the desktop app to be able to do that. And then of course the mileage rate will be downloaded into desktop. So it's more of an honorable mention feature, but it is available in 2023. Improved banking connections. This is the availability of a lot of some of the banks. So it's a slow process. So it's not going to have all the 250,000 banks, or I think it's like 15,000 different banks, especially your regional banks or credit unions adopting this. So your large banks will likely have this first, but this is one of those things where it will push transactions into QuickBooks rather than having to rely on the Web Connect, where you go out to the bank, you download the transactions and bring them in. So this will be bringing in transactions and some other options, like check images and things like that, to be able to come in via an API as opposed to just how they're downloading transactions and getting them into QuickBooks. So this is a framework type of feature, so it should be more improved as time goes on, but it is available in 2023. If you're not using the bank feeds, this is just kind of how you would select authenticate link and then download your transactions. Michelle, were you saying something?
Well, I was going to say, Dan, that I think it's important to point out that I think this is something that's not necessarily there yet or right off the bat. I think it's going to take some time. Like it might be there maybe for the Chase banks right off the bat or initially, but it's going to take some time to roll out with the banks. Just like in QBO, we didn't start getting the bank statements and things like that for that many banks right off the bat. It takes some time to roll it out. So don't get excited if you don't see a lot of banks having it right off the bat. Give it some time to get implemented with more banks. It'll take some time to happen.
Right. Yeah. You'll likely see, the Wells Fargos and the Chases of the world adopting it first, and then, your local banks. All right. So we want to talk a little bit about the inventory enhancements. So this is only available in the enterprise categories, which is a category or which is an option in QuickBooks Online. You'll be able to create categories rather than having to deal with sub items of your items. So you can create categories and subcategories up to 4 levels. You can assign those categories to inventory items and run reports based on those and view items by category. But it's only available in enterprise. So I thought I had no, they don't have a demo about that particular feature. But on our landing page, we have a link to the article. Michelle, were you gonna say something?
No, I thought
No.
I will on intercompany transactions when you get to it.
Gotcha. Okay, so this is probably one of the nicer features because it's always been an option that people have to do just kind of manually when you have multiple companies, and you want to have an intercompany transfer, due from, due to. You just basically do your journal entries between the two. This allows you to create those transactions and relationships within multiple company files, and then track things back and forth. So the process is you create that company file relationship, you accept that, and then create a multi-entity bill, and then accept or reject that bill. And then QuickBooks will create those transactions for you. So you actually will have a dashboard center where you can see those due from, due tos, and then accept them or reject them as well. So we have a little demo here about using the intercompany transaction. So we'll play that.
Hi, this is Jason from the QuickBooks team. You can use intercompany transactions in QuickBooks Desktop Enterprise to record transactions made by one company that also affect another company you keep the books for. To use this feature, it's important that each related company has a separate company file. Let's go through how to set up a relationship between multiple companies and then record a purchase a company made for another company. First, create a relationship between your companies. Select Intercompany Transactions. If you're not logged into your Intuit account, enter your username and password. Then select Create a Relationship. Then select Continue. QuickBooks displays a list of company files you're a user in. Select the company you want to create a relationship with and select Continue. Next, choose two accounts QuickBooks will use when you enter a transaction that relates to the other company. The Due From account tracks how much money the other company owes the company you're signed into, and Due To tracks how much this company owes to the other company. For the Due From account, it's recommended you choose or set up an asset and name it so it's clear it relates to the other company. For the Due To account, it's recommended you choose or set up a liability and also name it so it relates to the other company. Select Send Request, and then OK. The relationship is pending, and you won't be able to record any intercompany transactions related to them until the other company approves the relationship. Select File, Close Company. Then select the other company file, open it, and log in. Select Intercompany Transactions. The Relationships tab shows you which relationships are pending approval, as well as any rejected, approved, or requested relationships. Here's the company that requested a relationship earlier. Under Action, you can reject or approve. Approve the request. Next, choose two accounts QuickBooks will use when you enter a transaction that relates to the other company. Remember, it's recommended to set up an asset and a liability with the other company's name in the title. Then select Approve Relationship and select OK. Select the Approved box. And now you can see any companies with approved relationships to this company. Select Create a Relationship to request relationships with any other companies. This company purchased some materials for the other company. Let's record that. Select Write Checks and select Intercompany Transactions. QuickBooks warns you that you must limit your transaction to one line. Select OK. Enter the payee, date, and other information like you would on any other transaction. Select the Company drop-down arrow and select the company you made the purchase for. Since you bought something for the other company, use the Due From account, which is an asset. Then enter the dollar value of the purchase and any other relevant information. Select Save and Close. While the transaction is pending approval, it does not affect any of your account balances. Select Intercompany Transactions, and on the Transaction tab, select Sent for Approval to see any pending transactions. Let's switch back to the other company to see everything from their point of view. Select Intercompany Transactions. Then select the Transactions tab and Pending My Approval. Here's the transaction the other company recorded. Before you can approve the transaction, you have to choose an expense account. This transaction was for job materials. Select Approve. QuickBooks creates a journal entry in this company and makes the transaction you recorded earlier posting so that it affects your accounts. Select OK. Let's take a look at what the transaction did. Select the chart of accounts. Here's the due to liability account. The transaction increased what this company owes the other company. Select Reports, Company and Financial, Profit and Loss Standard. And here's the job material expense. Now you're ready to use intercompany transactions to speed up your work in multiple companies.
So to kind of recap there, whoops, hang on, next.
Hi,
No,
this is Jason.
I don't know why it does that. It wants to repeat the video when you're playing the presentation mode, but that is only in enterprise platinum or higher. So silver, gold does not have the have this intercompany transfer option. So go ahead. Were you going to say something?
I was. So we have several questions on this, and then I want to share some things that I stole from Hector's comments because Hector had some really good comments on these, and I agree because I also, have worked with companies that had a lot of intercompanies and things like this. So first of all, a couple of questions that we've had. Sandy and James both asked, how many intercompanies can you have? I don't know. I don't know if there's an limitations on the number of intercompanies. Dan, did you hear anything about how many you can have?
Yeah, I don't know. I can only imagine that you can, that there isn't a limit. It's more of a practical limit as opposed to a physical limit with the amount, but they'll have to be on the same version, right, of QuickBooks Enterprise Platinum Edition,
right,
to be able to see and use that, within both both versions. So, if you're setting it up as the accountant and on your accountant edition, you'll see it. Let's just go back to that here. Yeah, so only with platinum or diamond or enterprise accountant. So if you're going back and forth between the two.
Which ties to Mary's question, could you use intercompany from desktop to online? No, I don't think so. I think it's got to be all enterprise. So I don't think you could go back and forth there. So here's a couple of comments that Hector had, and I totally agree with him. Right now, it's only bills and checks. So if you had a deposit, that wouldn't work, or an invoice, that wouldn't work. So you couldn't do that, or so it's only bills and checks. So that's limited to only those two transaction types. So that's one limitation. The other limitation you have is a lot of times with intercompanies, when you have companies that have multiple entities, sometimes some of the entities are a holding company where they only log into that holding company once every 6 months or once a quarter or something. So if company A has an intercompany transaction and company B doesn't log in to approve it until 3 months later, it can't be, it doesn't actually post in company A until company B approves it. So company A is in limbo because B never approved it. So in some situations, that could be a limitation because it's not, you can't get yours approved or posted until B approves it. So that could be some limitations. So it's great to begin with, but there are some limitations there. Somebody else said they don't like the idea that it's a journal entry in the second company. So there are some things that, it's great initially. Intercompany transactions are always a bane, they're always a pain. And so the fact that we're getting intercompany transactions is great. And I like the idea that they're doing that. And I would love to see it in QBO as well. So it's a good start. We need to give into it our feedback. So if we want it in QBO, which somebody said, send them your feedback. And yes, with desktop, send them your feedback about, this is great, but it's a V1. Send them your feedback on what additional changes and additional things that you'd like to see on that.
Yeah, so and that's typical for new features. They're they're very shallow end of the pool.
Yeah.
Very limiting on what you can do, and then
Yeah.
It's typically the accountants and bookkeepers of the world that like, well, what about this? Right.
Yes.
So definitely,
You
definitely provide that.
give us something and we always want more. We're never happy. We're never happy.
Exactly.
We're like, well, now what about this, this, and this? We always want more.
All right. So we'll move on into the next one, which is also only for Enterprise Platinum and Diamond and Enterprise Accountant, is expiration date. So this is a feature enhancement of lot numbers or serial numbers. So if you have clients that are, especially in the food service industry, or in any case where there is an added element of expiration dates to something, then this will add additional options for them, so that when you're using setting up the lots or serial numbers, you can add that expiration date also on the sales transactions, because you're going to be able to utilize that for, especially in food. That's definitely going to have a need that a lot of people who would use lots for that, but also would want to know the expiration date as well. And whoops, I went the wrong way. So we have another demo for that. So go ahead and launch that.
Hi, this is Jason from the QuickBooks team.
Jason's
QuickBooks
a
Desktop
popular fellow.
Enterprise and Advanced Inventory can help you track the expiration dates of your inventory by serial or lot numbers. This helps you reduce the risk of selling expired items or make sales decisions like discounting items about to expire. Let's go over how to turn on expiration dates for your inventory, receive inventory that has an expiration date, and then track it on reports. Select Edit, Preferences. Then select Items and Inventory and open the company preferences. Select Advanced Inventory Settings and then the Serial Lot Number and Expiration tab. To track expiration dates, you'll also need to activate serial or lot numbers. That's because when you assign an expiration date, you assign it to a specific serial or lot number. Select the Activate Expiration Date checkbox, and then select the transactions you want to include expiration dates. You can make the expiration date mandatory or give you an alert if you don't enter it. You can also add preferences for specific items when you add or edit them. This overrides the global preferences you enter in Advanced Inventory Settings. Select OK. Let's receive inventory and record the expiration date for an inventory item. Select Receive Inventory. Receive inventory with a bill. Fill out the transaction like you normally would, or use a purchase order to fill it out for you. Enter the serial or lot number for the inventory you received, and then enter an expiration date. And then save the transaction. If you want to assign expiration dates to existing serial or lot numbers, open the Inventory menu and select Adjust Quantity Value on Hand. Select serial or lot number as the adjustment type. Enter the name of the inventory, and then select the drop-down under Serial or Lot Number, and enter the serial or lot number and the expiration date. Then select Save and Close. You can track the expiration date of your inventory on Reports. Select the Reports menu, Inventory, Serial Lot Numbers in Stock. Then double-click the serial or lot number to see the expiration date. Now you're ready to track the expiration dates for your inventory.
I would have loved to see the that not just to show up on a report, like so you'd actually see the expiration dates on the reports themselves, rather than drilling in to the lot number in stock in order to see that. But that would be my feedback on that.
So
anything that you saw?
Well, so what I'm sorry, I wasn't paying close attention, but what I would like to be able to do, and I don't know if you can because I wasn't paying attention, I was answering questions. So can you then sort by expiration date and do an inventory adjustment so I can write off all my inventory that's at its expiration date, to do an inventory adjustment to write it off because it's at the expiration date, or discount it because it's approaching the expiration date? Can you do an inventory adjustment based on expiration date to discount it or to write it off? If
that
not,
I don't think
feedback.
so. Because the way they're showing going into, being able to see your expiration dates, you have to drill in on the lot number in order to see that. I don't think you can see that by that aspect.
Feedback.
But yeah, definitely
feedback, because that just makes sense. Is okay, now if we're going to have an expiration date, the next thing is I need to be able to discount these items to move them before their expiration date, and then I need to write them off as of their expiration date.
Yeah.
So
because then you can but I didn't even know that you could create do an inventory adjustment to add this to existing lot number. So I thought that was a cool option on the inventory adjustment to make sure that you have that. I mean, I just may have missed it, in general, like just not even by by knowing it in general, but so I feel stupid about that about it if that's already been the case. But being able to make those inventory adjustments to add those to historical lot numbers is a good thing. But having a good report where you can see them all in one place and then add them as an option to discount them. They're manager special. It's going to expire today, type of thing. But absolutely. So let's go in the wrong direction here. All right. So now we're going to talk about some of the services being able to that are being advanced or services that are getting some enhancements. So payment links is falling behind. Is falling closely behind in the QuickBooks online options. So with the enhancement in the payments link, you're going to have now a dashboard, whereas you can create payment links as you can in QuickBooks Online, but now you have a dashboard, just like you have in QuickBooks Online with regards to being able to see the payment links that have been sent out, and being able to see if they've been deposited or not paid yet. So you'll be able to see that in a dashboard on the payments link. And I'm going the wrong direction. Also with payments, the Node card reader for QB Desktop. So in QuickBooks Online, there is now a new card reader. It's about $50 to be able to do the all of the current ways to pay, Apple Pay using the chip reader, those types of things, the contactless methods. You'll be able to use accept those payments. I don't know that you can actually connect it directly to your computer to process the card directly from within QuickBooks. I still think you're using the Go payment or some kind of mobile app to charge the card, and then those transactions are able to come in. But you'll be able to use that card reader with your desktop. As far as payroll is concerned, the guideline 401k integration with assisted payroll looks like it's not coming out until R3, so release 3 of QuickBooks Desktop, being able to do that. So only your assisted payroll clients or people using assisted payroll will be able to use the guideline integration, but it will give you the access to the 401k plans. You can sign up directly within that, and then one thing I did want to double check with them is that it will submit the the liability. So the deductions from the paychecks will be will be able to be paid directly from within QuickBooks. And then there's an automated verification of employment through Equifax. So this is when employees need to verify their employment and income through, for loans or credit. If they're using Equifax, it will automatically, provide that verification of employment to those employees using that. There is an option to opt out of it so that you can undo that. So that's going to be for those folks that are using desktop payroll services. All right, so we'll throw in our last poll question here. Of those features, which do you feel is something that you'd be able to use or utilize the most?
Okay, Dan, I have questions for you. First of all, you just said the HCM, and I don't remember what that was leading into. What is HCM? I think that was going into the I don't even remember.
Yeah,
what was HCM meant?
I don't know what it stands for, but it has to deal with the
has
to deal with the guideline integration with the 401k.
Okay, I didn't know either. And then somebody said maybe Intuit tool to sort and filter by the expiration date with the inventory adjustments. Meredith said that. Meredith, that's a great idea. Send that feedback into Intuit. I think that's a good idea. And then, okay, so Dan, on the accountant's enhanced payroll subscription, do you know if that will still be in effect, or will they have to pay $5 per employee for each client? So the accountant's enhanced payroll, is that still going to be in effect?
So keep in mind that they're no longer selling any active payroll subscriptions of that flavor. So the enhanced payroll for accountants still is in existence, and they're not making any changes to the cost of that service. They're just not selling any new ones. So so if you're an accountant with the ProAdvisor membership, you can't add on the enhanced payroll for accountants to your ProAdvisor membership as you could in the past. Now those things will only have the per direct deposit costs, and they're not subject to this $5 per employee. So they're not changing anything there, so that you won't have any additional per employee costs. It's only for the end user enhanced payroll subscriptions as far as the cost that is concerned there. So no changes with that, other than the fact that they're not selling any new ones.
Okay. Christine says, I may have missed it, but can existing items be edited to add expiration dates?
Yeah, so that you would be doing that through your inventory adjustment, or you can go into the individual item itself and then add your expiration dates to the lot numbers.
Okay. Has Intuit announced that they are now terminating the QBD payroll for accountants, desktop payroll for accountants? Is that being terminated?
It's not being terminated. They're just not selling any new ones. So that's kind of like a slow death, I think, as far as that is concerned. But they haven't made any announcements that it's not an option anymore, but it's just not, they're selling any new desktop payroll for accountants.
Okay. Now, when it comes to the poll,
they're none of the above.
Yeah, we got a lot of people who say none of the above, none of these work, because people don't like the new features, that none of them seem to work. And I think instead of saying none of them work, I think you guys have to keep in mind it's release 1, it's the version 1. And so, to say that none of them work, they do work, but maybe they don't work as well as we would like them to. I mean, that's what always happens. When something first comes out, it's not as good as we would like. That's what always happens. We always want more, I mean, think about it, when something comes out, we always want more to it. We always want more to to be there. And that's the way it always is that we always want more out of it. I mean, that's the way things always are. So to say it doesn't work isn't really true. You know, the cash flow hub is pretty cool. I mean, to say it doesn't work isn't really accurate. Cash flow hub works. It gives you a good view of your cash flow, you know, and what's coming. So it does work. The intercompany transfer does work. It's two transaction types that work. It may not be exactly what we want. We may get more out of it, but it does work. So, you know, somebody says go ahead, Dan.
It's just exactly what you're saying is it's very shallow end of the pool, you know, and especially accountants and bookkeepers have been in the deep end for so long. It's like the intercompany transfer is like, what took you so long to do this? You know, and you know, I saw some chats floating by that you know, we've been doing this you know, through journal entries for forever. The nice part about it is the whole relationship that it has. So it does put him in those pending things. But to your point, Michelle, is that, you know, if there's a holding company and they never go into that company, then you're kind of stuck, right? So you could potentially have that. It could be an obstacle with this new feature because you never go into that company.
Well, and I think one of the things too here is these are not features that affect everybody. You know,
right.
this is things that are going to affect a few things, or a few people and a few companies or whatever. But the thing of it is, like with intercompany transfers, if you are somebody that deals with intercompany transfers and you got a lot of these, this is cutting your work in half because you only have to enter one side of the transaction. The other half is being taken care of for you. So it's cutting your work in half. You don't have to go into two companies and do this now. So it's cutting your work in half when it comes into that. So that is a huge time saver for you. You know, so that is saving you a lot of time in that respect, you know, so that is going to be huge for those people. The problem is that's a small subset of the people. When you look at all the QBO users or the QB desktop users, that's a small subset of the users. So I think what we're seeing in I think people's replies are, this isn't affecting me personally or a lot of my clients. You know, a lot of these features aren't affecting a lot of my clients, that this is affecting a small number of clients.
Yeah, your typical contractor, plumbing or electrician is not going to be concerned about expiration dates.
Right.
You know, because they're not even tracking inventory.
Right. That's true. Yeah, a small percentage. First of all, a small percentage of desktop users use inventory. A small percentage of those need to worry about expiration dates. Right. You know, so these features are very, you know, very targeted features.
Yeah, like if you have a client who's in the food industry or has a serial number tracking, that's a welcome feature for them.
Yeah. One of the things that I would be really excited about is the fact that the bank fee, the idea that they're trying now to pull down the check images and the bank statements, and the fact that it's going to be pushing the transactions so you don't have to do the refresh. So that new API feature that they're doing on the bank feeds, I think that's going to be huge, and that will apply to a vast majority of your clients. So I mean, I would be excited about that. I know it may not be rolling out initially with the R1 or the R3 of desktop, but hopefully over the next 6 months, that's going to be affecting the majority of your clients. So that is something that I would be excited about, is the improvements in the bank feed area.
Yeah, and I saw something float by. If I don't have any enterprise clients, a lot of these features are focused on the enterprise side of things, and that's one of the things I'm realizing. With the price increases, is that enterprise is actually becoming more on level with Pro Plus, Premier Plus, especially if they have multiple users. So if you're using what was it, the payroll, with Premier Plus, you could potentially spending a couple $1,000s yearly now that it's a subscription based. So enterprise now comes into the equation, as it's not as such huge jump as it used to be when you were talking about your one user license that they would purchase once every 3 years. Now, if it's on a multi-user license with Premier, with some of the Premier features, now it's an easier segue into the enterprise, and now you're actually taking advantage of the other options and other features that are in enterprise.
Yeah, and somebody asked, what version do you have to use for the intercompany transactions? It's Enterprise, Diamond, and Platinum, and Enterprise Accountant.
Yeah, and we have that on the slides, and I'm just going to go back to that slide. Nope, not that one. There we go. So we have just this grid that gives you, which version has what feature, so you can see at a glance there. So if you download the slides, you should be able to, take that one slide and post it up on your right next to your computer.
Yes.
All right, so that is it for today. Let me just see here. So yeah, next week or next time we'll be talking about spreadsheets, and I have too many things in front of the screen there. There we go. So we're going with spreadsheets and QBO. So definitely tune in next week or next time for another QB Power Hour. It's great to see you as always, Michelle.
Great to see you.
We'll see you next time on the QB Power Hour.